At breakfast, my ex-wife hurled hot coffee at me for not handing over my debit card. I don't remember waking up that morning, just being awake, lying in bed with the stiff motel pillow folded under my neck, staring at the nicotine-stained ceiling like it might fall in on me. The hum of the old air conditioning unit buzzed in my ear, rhythmic and tired. There was a dull pain behind my eyes, like a hangover without the drinking, and my mouth tasted like metal. I hadn't brushed my teeth the night before, or the one before that. The text came around 7:18 a.m. Breakfast, one last talk. No greeting, no punctuation, but that was her style, abrupt, assuming. She always wrote like the world owed her a response. I stared at the screen for too long, thumb hovering over ignore, heart buzzing in that old familiar way. Some part of me still believed if I could just explain it the right way, if I could just keep my voice calm enough, she'd finally hear me. Osnubad. I didn't even text back, I just showed up, like I always did. Because some parts of me still belong to her, like coins in the cracks of a couch you don't even realize are gone until you need them. The diner was the kind of place with laminated menus and sun-faded pictures of pancakes that always looked better than they tasted. It smelled like syrup, burnt coffee, and fryer oil that hadn't been changed in a week. The kind of smell that clings to you for hours afterward, no matter how much you wash your hands. She was already there when I walked in, seated in our old booth near the window, tapping her nails against the edge of the table. Red nails, like always. The same color she wore the night we got engaged, the same shade I once kissed off her fingers in the back of my car, thinking we were invincible. Now they just looked sharp, like warning signs. Hey, I said, voice flat. She looked up with that practiced smile, the one that used to make me feel chosen. Now it just looked rehearsed. You look tired, she said, like a compliment wrapped in barbed wire. I didn't sleep much. She didn't offer an apology, just sipped her coffee black, 2 sugars, no cream, and set the mug down gently, deliberately, as if placing it too fast might cause the world to collapse. We didn't talk for a while. The waitress came, took my order without making eye contact. I got eggs, toast, and coffee because that's what I always got. Not because I wanted it, but because routine sometimes felt like the only thing left of me. You're not going to ask why I wanted to meet, she asked, voice syrupy, head tilted like she already knew the answer. I figured you'd tell me. She leaned in, her perfume hitting me like a memory I didn't want to have. Sweet and synthetic like drugstore flowers. I'm in a bit of a situation, she said. I need your help. There it was. The thing under the thing. What kind of situation? I asked, not because I didn't know, but because I wanted to hear her say it. She sighed like I was making things difficult, like I was supposed to just hand her whatever she needed because we once shared a last name. I lost my wallet last night, she said. I have bills coming out tomorrow. I just need your debit card for the day. I'll give it back tonight. My chest went tight. Not again. The last time I'd done that, she drained the account and ghosted me for a week. Said she was reconnecting with herself in Portland. Sent me a picture of a latte and a sunset like that made it okay. No, I said, not loud, not cruel, just firm, final. She blinked, tilted her head. The smile didn't waver yet. What do you mean, no? I mean, I'm not giving you my card. The silence that followed was heavy. The clink of silverware, the low hum of the diner's fluorescent lights, the sizzle from the open kitchen behind us, all of it got louder. Her eyes sharpened. So you're just going to let me drown, she said. I'm not responsible for you anymore. And that was it, that was the spark. Her hand moved before I registered it. She picked up the coffee cup, full and still steaming, and threw it across the table. Not at the floor, not in the air. At me. It hit my chest first, warm, not scalding, but enough to sting. The liquid splashed up onto my neck, my chin. The ceramic cup hit the edge of the table and rolled off with a loud clatter, shattering on the tiled floor. Gasps, a shout from the counter. The waitress froze, pen still in her hand. And me just sitting there. Dripping. Not shocked, not really. Just tired. She didn't stand, didn't move, just stared at me like I was the one who'd done something wrong, like I'd forced her hand. You're such a fucking martyr, she said, low and venomous. You think being miserable makes you righteous, you always wanted me to need you. I stood up. Not quickly, slowly, controlled. I picked up a napkin and dabbed at my shirt, even though it did nothing. My hands were shaking a little, not with fear, just the adrenaline, the body trying to protect itself even when the mind had already given up. You need help, I said, and I meant it, not as a dig, as a fact, a truth I couldn't protect her from. She scoffed, turned to look out the window like I was the crazy one. I walked out without paying. I think the waitress said something behind me, but I didn't hear. The bell over the door jingled as I left, like some kind of sick applause. Outside, the sky was low and gray, the air thick with that pre-rain electricity that makes everything feel slower. The first drop started falling before I reached the corner. I kept walking, no umbrella, no destination. The rain mixed with the coffee on my shirt, soaking the fabric to my skin. I should have been cold, but I felt nothing. Somewhere deep in my chest, something cracked, something small but foundational. Not just about her, not just about the card or the coffee. It was the weight of all the years I'd carried her pain, like a pack mule too dumb to know he could sit down. I walked until my socks squelched in my shoes. I walked until I couldn't smell her perfume anymore. I walked until the image of her face, angry, smug, untouched by consequence, finally left my mind. And still I walked. Because I knew if I stopped, I might go back. And I couldn't survive that again. Not this time. The motel smelled like mildew and lemon-scented cleaner trying to mask it. Room 203, second floor, thin carpet older than me with cigarette burns by the window and a door that only locked properly if you lifted it a little while turning the key. I'd figured out the trick on the second night. By the third, it felt like routine. I stood in the bathroom, shirt soaked with rain and stale coffee, peeling it off like a second skin. There were red splotches on my chest where the heat hit, but nothing serious. I looked at myself in the mirror, pale, 36, face gaunt in a way I hadn't noticed creeping in, beard patchy, lips cracked. In my eyes, I couldn't stop looking at my eyes. They looked gone. I ran cold water, let it splash onto my face and drip down onto the sink. I stayed bent over like that for a while, palms pressed against porcelain, breathing heavy, trying to slow my heart, trying to not scream or cry or punch the mirror. I didn't feel angry, not really, not in the way people imagine anger. I felt stripped, like someone had taken a cheese grater to my soul. I dropped the shirt in the trash, sat on the edge of the bed, shirtless, wrapped in a motel towel that felt like sandpaper. Outside, a truck revved by, some drunk yelling into the night. I watched shadows crawl across the ceiling as headlights passed through the blinds. She'd done it, she crossed the line. But what haunted me, what really sank its teeth into the softest part of me, was how not surprised I'd been. How normal it felt. That was the worst part. I thought about calling someone, my brother. He'd always said I should have left her years ago. But I couldn't bear the sound of his "I told you so," not the words, just the silence after, that pitying quiet, like he was waiting for me to finally hit bottom. I lay back on the bed, arms spread out, eyes on the ceiling. The AC coughed, sputtered, resumed. I wondered if this was it, if this was where I'd end up. Living out of motels, working shit jobs, haunting the edges of my own life. There's this thing no one tells you about leaving someone who hurt you. Even when it's right, it doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like failure. It feels like abandonment. Like you're the one who quit. The next morning, I walked to a Walgreens and bought toothpaste, deodorant, a plain black t-shirt, paid cash, avoided eye contact, everything felt sticky. The fluorescent lights made my skin look green, I looked like a ghost. Back at the motel, I shaved for the first time in 2 weeks. The razor tore at my skin like it didn't want to cooperate. A couple nicks opened up and bled a little, but I didn't stop. I needed to see my face again. not the version of me she left behind. I'd been gone for 8 months since the divorce, but only now in that cracked mirror, bleeding from my own attempt to feel human again, did I realize I was actually leaving. The phone buzzed. Her name on the screen. Oh, again. I stared at it like it might explode. It didn't, it just stopped buzzing. 5 minutes later, another one. I was just upset. You triggered me. I need to talk to you. Triggered. What a word. She used to weaponize that word like a blade, slicing every conversation into wounds she never intended to clean. I remembered when I first heard her say it, early in the relationship, how earnest it had sounded then. How I'd nodded, listened, tried to help her feel safe. Somewhere along the way, though, triggered had stopped meaning hurt and started meaning you disobeyed me. I blocked the number, then immediately unblocked it. Then blocked it again. God, I hated that part of myself, the part still tethered to the ghost of her, still needing her to approve of my pain. I lay back on the bed again, the fan rattling in the window. I stared at the ceiling and thought about how long it had been since I felt joy. Real joy, that chest-opening, stupid grin kind of joy, not the little wins, not relief, but alive. And I couldn't remember. Not really. Maybe once, years ago, the day we moved into our first apartment, the cheap one above the bakery. We ate sandwiches on the floor and laughed about how poor we were, how in love. She put on that Nina Simone record and we danced barefoot on hardwood that hadn't been cleaned in weeks. I missed that version of her. But I don't think she ever existed, not fully. I think I built her. 2 days later, I walked around the corner and found a coffee shop that didn't feel like hell. A mom-and-pop place, real cozy, with bookshelves and low lighting and a barista who didn't look bored. I ordered a coffee, black, no sugar, didn't taste great, but it was hot, real. I sat in the corner and opened my notebook. I hadn't written anything in a while, but the pen moved anyway, a list at first. Things I want to forget. Hers throwing the cup. The sound it made hitting the floor. How calm she looked afterward. The moment I realized I was used to it. Then another list. Things I still have. My name. My breath. Time. A heartbeat that still keeps going, even when it shouldn't. It wasn't much, but it was something. That night I talked to the guy in room 107. Roy, or maybe Troy, I still wasn't sure. He had a little chihuahua that growled at everyone but licked my hand like we'd met in another life. You look like hell, he said. Feel like it too. We smoked in silence. I didn't even smoke, but it felt right, like joining a ritual. He didn't ask questions and I didn't explain. Sometimes the best kind of connection is the kind without words, just presence. Afterward, I went back to my room, laid in bed. And didn't cry. Didn't check my phone. Didn't replay the scene again and again like I had been. Just lay there. I was still, breathing, alive. And somehow that felt like the beginning of something. It had been 13 days since the diner. 13 days without hearing her voice. Without her name flashing on my screen at 2:17 a.m. without context or apology. I started counting days the way addicts count sober ones, not in celebration, more like in defiance. A calendar scratched into the walls of my mind, one more day I didn't fall back into her orbit. But healing's never a straight line, it's a loop, a spiral. Sometimes you think you're moving forward and realize you're just walking the same path with a slightly better limp. She showed up on a Thursday. I remember because I'd just gotten back from the bookstore job. I stocked shelves mostly. Re-alphabetized the fiction section like it was sacred. I liked the quiet, the smell of pages, the way no one there needed anything from me but time. When I pulled into the motel parking lot, I saw her before I even killed the engine, sitting on the curb in front of my door like a scene from some sad indie film. No makeup, hoodie, hair in a knot like she hadn't slept. She looked smaller than I remembered, or maybe I was finally seeing her without the filter of want. My stomach dropped the way it always did when she was around, like a reflex, like muscle memory. I sat in the car with the engine running. Part of me wanted to back out, pretend I didn't see her, drive to a different town and start over. But the other part, the louder part, was tired of running. I got out. She stood up slowly, eyes red but dry. "Hey," she said, as if this were normal. As if 2 weeks ago she hadn't weaponized a coffee cup against me. "What do you want?" I asked, flat, no warmth, no cruelty, just done. "I needed to see you." She paused, looked down at the ground like she was rehearsing the next line. "I'm sorry," she said, "about the coffee, about all of it, I wasn't thinking." That part always gets me, I wasn't thinking. As if rage is an accident, as if my pain is collateral damage in her emotional weather. "You were thinking," I said, "you just didn't care." Her face crumpled a little, not quite tears but the suggestion of them, a softening the performance. She took a step closer. "Can we talk inside?" "No." That word felt so good, clean, like rinsing something out of my mouth I'd been trying to swallow for years. She stood there for a long second, then sat down on the curb again, like she was trying to look vulnerable. "I miss you," she said. I didn't answer. "I know I fucked up, I've been spiraling, and I shouldn't have taken it out on you. But you're the only one who ever really saw me, who stuck around, and I don't know how to do this without you." I leaned against my car, arms crossed. "I think that's the problem," I said. "You don't know how to do anything without someone. You always need someone to carry the weight for you." She flinched like I'd hit her, but I hadn't raised my voice. "I'm trying," she said. "I'm trying to be better." I nodded slowly, "Then be better, but not with me." The silence between us stretched thin. I could hear cars in the distance. A plane overhead. Somewhere behind us, Roy's dog barked once, then stopped. She looked at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. Maybe she'd never seen this version of me, the one who didn't bend, the one who didn't reach for her out of habit. She stood up again, brushing invisible dirt off her jeans. "So that's it?" she asked. "I think it's always been it," I said. "We just kept pretending it was." There was this pause where I could see her mind working, trying to find something sharp to throw. A phrase, a guilt trip, but nothing came. Just this hollow smile. "I hope you're happy," she said, not with kindness, more like a curse. "I hope you figure out what that word even means," I said, unlocking my door. I stepped inside and closed it, didn't slam it, just shut it. Resolved. Vinyl. I stood there in the dark for a while, hands still on the knob, breath shallow. And then I laughed. It came out small at first, bitter, but then it grew, not manic, not joyful, just free. Because for the first time in years I'd chosen myself, not in theory, not in some therapist's office, but in the dirt of it, the mess, the real. She didn't knock again, didn't scream or cry or call me selfish. Oh, she just left. And when I peeked through the blinds, I watched her get in her car and drive off. No fireworks, no music, just taillights fading into dusk. I slid down the back of the door and sat on the floor, knees pulled to my chest, forehead resting against the wood. And I breathed. Deep, full, present. She was gone. And I was still here. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. It's strange what peace actually feels like. You think it'll come like a sunrise, brilliant, warm, cinematic, something worthy of background music, but for me it arrived in the quiet. In little things. In the way I stopped checking my phone when I woke up. In how I drank my coffee slowly. In how the silence in my motel room stopped feeling like punishment and started feeling like space. Space to breathe, space to think, space that wasn't shaped around her anymore. I moved out of the motel 3 weeks after she came by, signed a lease on a one-bedroom above a laundromat. The ceilings were low, the floor creaked, and there was a weird stain in the corner of the living room I covered with an old rug. But it was mine. No one screaming, no walking on eggshells. No midnight panic attacks with her packing the hallway, throwing things, threatening to leave and daring me to beg her not to. Just me, a window, a thrift store couch, and a bed that no longer smelled like her. I bought a lamp, a plant, started cooking again. Burned rice my first night, oversalted the soup the next, laughed at myself for the first time in forever, real laughter, quiet, surprised, like rediscovering a part of me I thought had been buried for good. The job at the bookstore kept me steady. I liked sorting the new arrivals, straightening the shelves, the smell of fresh paper and worn bindings. I started recommending books to customers, not because I had to, just because I wanted to connect again. There was a girl who came in a lot, Clara. Brown eyes, soft voice, the kind of person who said thank you like she meant it. She asked for poetry once, and I handed her a copy of Ada Limon. She smiled at the first line on the back cover like it understood her. We didn't talk much, just enough. A shared smile, a nod, a beat of warmth. I wasn't ready, not for anything big, but it felt nice just knowing the possibility of softness still existed in the world, that not everyone wanted to break things just to see if they could. One night I lit a candle and read until I fell asleep. Woke up at 2 a.m. to the smell of wax and the sound of rain tapping the window, and for the first time in years I didn't feel dread. Just quiet. Just presence. Just a slow heartbeat in the dark that was mine and mine alone. I started writing again. Not anything grand, just little things, fragments, journal entries, scraps of thought that helped me make sense of the wreckage. Leaving is a kind of grief, but staying was a slow death. She didn't ruin me, she revealed where I was already cracked. Survival isn't the end, healing is choosing to live after. Some days I still thought about her, the good versions, the imagined versions, the moments I still wanted to believe had been real. But it didn't gut me anymore. I could let the memory pass through without tearing me apart, like smoke, not fire. That was the difference. It's spring now. I leave the window open when I sleep. I like the breeze, the sound of wind in the trees. Sometimes kids play in the alley behind the laundromat and their laughter floats up to my window like birdsong. And I don't hate the world anymore. Some nights I still lie awake, wondering how I let it get so far, how I stayed so long, how I kept giving parts of myself away like they were infinite. But mostly I forgive myself. Slowly, quietly. The way the body heals after a long illness, not in a blaze but in breath. I walk to work now, take the long way, let the sun hit my face, let the noise of the world filter in, no longer afraid it'll overwhelm me. I smile at strangers, not often but enough. Sometimes I still flinch when a door slams, still tense when I hear raised voices. Trauma has a long half-life, but it's no longer in charge. I'm learning to be gentle with myself, to let things be incomplete, to rest without guilt. One morning last week, I looked in the mirror and thought, I almost recognize him again. The man I was before, or maybe the man I could be now. Different, bruised, sure, but standing, breathing, writing. Free. I don't know what comes next. But I know it won't be her. And I know it won't be the version of me that let it all happen. It'll be this. This quiet rebuild. This soft start. This small, steady life that belongs entirely to me.